Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is our EV portion. I'm Pete Gruber,
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everybody.
and thank you for joining us. As always, we've got our Bauhaus style backdrop there, and thought we'd use this a second time today. It's colorful, and
It just looks so good. I really like it.
it does indeed, yes. And for those of you that are interested in participating, feel free to do so. Chime in, ask questions, tell us where you're coming in from. Our audience loves to see the wide range of opinions that we collect all over the globe, actually. So, speaking of all over the globe, it looks like a um, parts company in China is being sued by Tesla. They're taking legal action against Yangcheng Jeco Auto Parts Company, also known as Jeco EV. And it's regarding the NACS adapter that this company is producing.
hmm
This complaint was filed Monday this week, apparently, and it claims that the adapter that's being marketed is deceptively a non-Tesla electric vehicle product and poses significant dangers to owners.
Yeah, it looks like Tesla is accusing Jacko EV of false advertising, basically. Jacko, there's a market out there for these Tesla converters from the J1772 or CCS1 to the newly monikered J3400, i.e. NACS standard for EVs. Basically, Jeco says their product is IP54 compliant, which means it's resistant against dust and resistance against water spray. Tesla says, no, it's not. There's no certification on record, and it's simply not compliant. Jeco EV also has claimed that its adapter has a kill switch that if it gets above 90 degrees centigrade, that it will temporarily halt charging, and Tesla says that's also not true.
Interesting. It gave me pause, actually, because we are working on a NACS conversion for the Tesla Roadster.
Right.
And fortunately, we have gone back to the original manufacturer of the product, of the connector on the Tesla Roadster, the proprietary connector. And so anyway, we're very anxiously watching the results of this because we do have Tesla's interest in this. We don't have endorsement yet, but our goal is going to be to get their full endorsement so that these Tesla Roadsters, as they show up at service centers, are not denied service because there's an aftermarket change that's been made.
Right. And, I mean, we learned something about this here, too. I don't know that you or I had ever discussed having IP54 compatibility for our Tesla Roadsters.
Right. It looks like we have a minor studio change taking place here.
We have buzz today.
A little bit of buzz.
I think it just got better.
Yeah. The buzz is gone.
I moved my power brick and I got better. So that's we'll see how this goes. The last I heard, and I tried to find on Jeco's site their adapter, and they don't have it. The reason these adapters are coming out, they're fairly popular, is because you've got Ford, you've got Rivian, and you've got every other automaker that's adopted the Tesla standard and have all said, eventually we're going to be able to get onto Tesla's chargers and we'll have adapters. Well, there's already a shortage in the marketplace. So many people want the adapters, and Ford and Rivian, which are the only two automakers who have it, can't keep up with demand.
So it's inviting, again, other companies to jump into the mix and resolve a backlog or resolve, an absence of product, which is perfectly normal in business. All right.
A couple questions or comments that we have as we're moving on. Obertowski is back.
Thank you for
Hello,
joining
Mr.
us.
Gruber, he says. And then on YouTube as well, John Surik is hello, everybody. So thank you for joining us. And on TikTok, user, it starts with 6261, Cybertruck better yet, is the comment.
All right, so Lucid's margins are going to stay negative, says this headline, until 2026. They're facing a challenging financial trajectory, the article says, according to a new research note from Cantor Fitzgerald that was sent out last Friday. The term or the firm has also reiterated its stock price target of $4, implying an upside potential of 12% based on previous closing prices. Now,
Hmm.
the stock price has actually been above $4 here within the last 3 weeks or so.
It has. They also call Lucid an underweight stock. I had to look that one up because I wasn't totally sure. What that means is, from a financial perspective, Lucid stock is expected to underperform as compared to its peers in the electric vehicle industry.
Okay.
Lucid is currently listed as the only major underweight stock in Cantor Fitzgerald's portfolio. Most stocks in the EV sector are listed as overweight, which means they're expected to outperform the stock market in general.
Okay. You know, what you're seeing these days is a lot of activity at the Casa Grande AMP1 facility.
Hmm.
Peter Rawlinson has been spending time there, and they are preparing for the Gravity launch. There's some social media postings. In fact, look up Lucid on YouTube, and you'll see some of their most recent videos from the site where Peter Rawlinson is interviewing some of the people that are there instrumental in preparing for this Gravity production
Hmm.
run.
You know, it's interesting to me, was interesting to, as I read through some of Cantor Fitzgerald's review. Technologically speaking, they just add to the chorus. They say that Lucid has a car with better efficiency, longer range, better performance, and faster charging than any other brand of EV.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they say that it's not better financial performance, that they're going to need money until they become profitable, which is at least 2026. And it's been previously announced that Lucid's only going to have cash to last through probably the middle of next year. So what does that mean? Do they raise more money? What happens?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate risk.
Yeah.
You know, as a Lucid stockholder, I have to take a look at that. Anything I present here obviously is going to be my opinions and not
Mm-hmm.
advice. But, you know, Tesla put out its Roadster in 2008, and it took till 2020 for Tesla to be profitable. And even then, it wasn't profitable on cars. You remember that?
I do, yes. What was it a profitable? What was the reason for the profitability?
They were selling carbon credits to dirty industries, and they got billions of dollars for all the carbon credits that they had accumulated.
Mm.
But then by 2021, Tesla had basically turned the corner with the Model 3 and the Model Y, and they became, from a non-profitable company, within 2 years, they were the most profitable automaker in the world. I think if Lucid is able to reach profitability in 2026, or whenever it reaches profitability, I think it has a chance to take over Tesla as the biggest automaker, as the most profitable automaker, because they've got the best tech.
Mm-hmm.
If they can figure out the sales side of it, they've got the foundation to really just take off and be unlike anybody else.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
My mic?
And while he's doing mic swapping, I'll prepare you for the next few topics here. You'll want to hang in there for this one. We're not going to go political on you, but there's definitely some things to talk about regarding a potential Trump victory at this point, which, according to most people, is beginning to look a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, with Biden dropping out the way that he did, it's been one of the most chaotic election cycles I can ever remember in my lifetime.
I think the word that was used by one of the political analysts was that the Democratic Party is currently convulsing.
That's probably a good word for it.
Whereas, the RNC was a lot of unity. But what impact will this have on EVs? Let's get through some questions and we'll get into that. John Surik is joining us from YouTube. He said, Ford delivered my adapter last month. Okay.
Ah, cool. So we'd love to hear how that adapter is working for you.
Mm-hmm. Crunch to Grace Hopper's back with us. Welcome. He's coming through on X. Back with you guys from a while back. Have you tried Spaces that enables instant icon feedback along with postings? We have not, have we?
I'm not sure that we have.
Yeah. Too bad X still doesn't have a playback scrolling and speed setting for latecomers to catch up without waiting for replays. Now, there's a good suggestion for X.
That is a great, and glad to have you back, Crunch.
Yeah. And then YouTube, John Surik says, I'm concerned about Lucid. Considered buying a used Grand Touring, but not sure if they can survive until profitability.
My personal take on that, again, just my opinion. Um, Lucid has the backing of the Saudi Arabian PIF fund. That is, simply put, the most profitable entity in the world today. In the last 3 years, they've had somewhere around $775 billion of net profit.
Mhm.
And so they're trying to figure out places to put their money. Saudi Arabia has decided that Lucid is the EV maker where they want to put their money. I just don't see them uh, abandoning Lucid at this stage in the game.
I have the same personal opinion. I mean, these are folks that have been collecting money now for many, many decades and have more than even most countries.
Mm-hmm.
They also badly need a second act. Oil is going away.
Yes.
Why not EVs? That is the future in transportation. And then finally, they're building skyscrapers and cities in deserts that had nothing before. They're even creating ski slopes and in the desert and paying for all of that air conditioning to do that. Ice skating rinks, and it doesn't seem that money is a issue for them or fiscal responsibility. So walking away from something they've already invested billions in just doesn't seem to make sense, considering they can see the trajectory of other companies like Lucid. And I've been at the AMP1 facility, very impressive manufacturing facility, two of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
Robots everywhere, staff already up and functioning and running, professional management. It's not like some of these newly coined EV companies that are struggling with the original founders still being involved in the company. It's just a professionally run company. I can't foresee the PIF fund bailing out. I mean, give me a reason. I guess that's what I'd be asking.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just don't see a reason behind that. So at some point, you would think that, okay, at some point they're going to say enough is enough. I don't think they're anywhere close to that point though,
Mm.
because Lucid does have such a well-engineered product. Our next question, in fact, is on TikTok from Leaf Village Outcast, where he asks, "Why is Lucid spec the best?" Personally, I think I would probably point you guys to a Sandy Monroe video where he does a teardown of a Lucid and he gives a technical explanation. Um, some of the highlights of that, of course, is that he found that the electric motor that Lucid produces and puts into their cars is about 1/3 the size of Tesla or most of the other automakers, and yet produces the same amount of power.
Mhm.
Lucid is the only car that has the kind of efficiency that it has. It runs where most cars are typically somewhere in the range of 3 miles per kilowatt. Lucids tend to be 4 miles per kilowatt in terms of energy usage. That's more efficient,
And pushing 5.
and they're pushing 5. The I think it's the Air Pure that has the lead right now on that, and they can push almost 4.5 miles per kilowatt. Lucid's moving to a 5 miles per kilowatt design, and they think they're almost there. They think that within 12 months they'll be there. These are some pretty significant engineering feats for that. As far as charging, Lucid is one of the few companies that has the 800-volt architecture that allows them to charge their batteries faster than just about anybody else in the market,
Sure.
including Tesla.
And it's I don't think it's a secret that the majority of the engineering talent at Lucid is ex-Tesla, and those folks learned something while they were there. For most of us that have worked for large corporations, you learn two things. You learn how not to do things, watching them make mistakes,
Right.
which is very costly, of course. And you certainly do learn best practices. And if you can bring that to a new company and start over again, then it reduces the cost enormously.
I feel like, again, just me, Peter Rawlinson was the chief technical officer of Lucid. He was their chief engineer, basically, and became the CEO. So the company itself has become kind of an engineering heavy organization.
Hmm.
That has been both a blessing in terms of Lucid putting out the best possible product and a challenge because he's not a sales guy. He's not the dynamic Elon Musk type of personality that can move markets with just the words that he says. And that's been a real challenge for Lucid because that means that it's been harder for them to ramp.
Yeah, good point. All right. So, what would a Trump victory mean for the entire EV industry? There's a good topic, and would love to hear from you, your reactions to that. What I find puzzling is that Trump and actually his vice president are very not sold on the EV concept. In fact, they want to roll back a lot of things, including what the $7,500 tax credit,
Right?
which may be repealed. Why then is Elon Musk supporting them the way that he is, including a funding of their PAC fund for reelection?
At first glance, it's so puzzling. You'll read some places in the press where it says Elon Musk had a huge impact on Trump's choice of vice president.
Hmm.
They're saying that Elon Musk was kind of the guy behind the choice of JD Vance, who is a relative newcomer. Um, I'm a social and fiscal conservative, and yet I'm also a love EVs, which in today's climate seems to be two very contradictory things. Personally, I don't think our EV industry needs the $7,500 per car in order to survive anymore.
Hmm.
And because of that, and the whole fiscal conservative idea of you've got an industry that's just lining up to take a handout from the government, um, I happen to agree with this overall philosophy, as harmful as it might seem for the EV industry. Uh, Basically, here's my take, and I'm going to use Germany as an example.
Okay.
You remember last December, we reported it here on the podcast. Holy cow, Germany said they're ending the EV subsidies,
Overnight.
and they announced it overnight. It was people are like, "Oh, that's the end of the EV industry in Germany."
Mhm.
And January of 2024 seemed to bear that out because in December the EV sales in Germany were somewhere close to 104,000 EVs, and in January it was like 18,000.
Mhm.
And year to date in 2024, though, if you take January out of the picture where there was that big reaction, EV sales in Germany have held steady. They're down overall year to date 16% year over year from 2023. But the EVs are, but again, you take out that 1 month, they're holding steady. The same thing, I think, is the case in the United States. I know that there's going to be pain on the EV industry when the $7,500 goes away, and it will eventually go away. I think the EV industry, however, is strong enough to stand on its own and not need that. And long term, you take out the political aspect of electric vehicles, and which is what the $7,500 subsidy does, is it politicizes it. People will start looking at EVs based on their own merits. And personally, I think there would be more people who are unwilling to buy EVs now that would be sold on them in the future.
Good point. Good point. Um, so it says here that Musk defended Vance's proposals, saying that removing the subsidies would only help Tesla. Now, there's an odd comment.
Yeah, that really is.
It's, of course, at odds with Tesla's marketing and with the federal tax break included in price breakdowns on the company's website and also promoted on Tesla's social media.
What companies other than Tesla, however, have started to make that transition into lower cost EVs to start with? The Tesla talks about the Model 2. They're talking about their robo-taxi. They're talking about the new version of the Model 3. And the cost is such a huge portion of that. when they went to gigacasting for the Model Y. Why did they do that? A big part of the reason for gigacasting was because it brought the cost down and the time to manufacture down on the Model Y so much.
Well, time will tell. First, we have to wait to see which administration gets elected. And then we'll have to see if these changes are actually enacted. There's a whole bunch of other changes, of course, that we're going to be looking for. What will happen in Europe, you know?
Right.
Um,
Well, and lest we forget, while the president has a large influence on the making of laws in our country, especially if we end up with a Democratic Congress and a Republican president, the president doesn't make the laws. Congress
mhm,
makes the laws. And right now, the law of the land is $7,500 credits.
yeah. A lot of questions here. John Surik says from YouTube, Tesla just built a new supercharger in Johnstown, Colorado at the new Buck Ease. Interesting. Yeah, they're popping up everywhere. YouTube, John Surik again. I use the adapter there and it works fine. It seems to be the same adapter as the Magic Dock.
Not surprised. I thought that would be the case.
hmm YouTube, Joel says, see many used Lucid EVs on car lots now. Well, that's an interesting take.
I'd be interested to find out how much those cost.
Yeah. John Surik says, very comfortable car and plenty zippy. Yeah, that it is.
Yes.
And now John says Tesla doesn't need the tax credit to sell cars. He also says he bought a Performance 3 in 2020, and there was no tax credit, and the car was more than $10,000 now.
So the question back to you,
That
John,
now.
is would you buy that same Model 3 Performance today if you didn't have a tax credit?
Yep.
But he makes a good point. The $7,500 tax credit is not an old, long-standing law. It was put into place fairly recently.
hmm So, Supercar Blondie. For those of you active on social media, I've noticed that if you look at one of them, so you're suddenly curated and they pop up every single day, lots
Oh,
of them.
yes.
And anyway, headline here says from Supercar Blondie's team, study finds EVs are cheaper to own than gas cars in all but 2 American states. Now, you had pointed out something interesting. What if the tax credit goes away? How would this headline change?
Oh, it's only one word.
Yes.
It would say study finds EVs are more expensive to own than gas cars in all but 2 American states.
Yep.
The highest savings are in New York, which is just over $7,500 over the first 5 years of ownership, and New Jersey, which is about $10,000. Um, I really wish that's such a clickbaity type of title,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish that people would just understand right now. EVs are more expensive to buy, but less expensive to own and maintain.
Yeah.
In the future, it's going to change. If you want your future to be now, go buy a used EV. Because many of your used EVs are depreciating faster than the ICE car equivalent. You won't pay that premium for the EV. You'll get a great car and it'll cost you almost nothing to own.
Yeah. Very true. So, Ferrari's first electric car begins road trials ahead of the formal debut. They begun road testing the first EV, which is a major significant milestone in this sports car maker's history. They have already covered thousands of kilometers with test drivers praising its performance. And, the Ferrari drivers typically set a very high bar for performance.
Yeah, they do.
Ferrari CEO Benedetto Vigna emphasizes that the car will be developed the right way, ensuring it delivers the fun and driving experience that Ferrari is known for. The company also opened a new solar-powered factory in Maranello, Italy, which is really where the Ferraris are produced.
Yeah.
And this factory is now dedicated to EV production. So they seem to be getting very serious about an alternative energy mode of transportation. They say while the pricing remains unconfirmed, the electric Ferrari is set to debut in 2025 and hit the market in 2026. This move aligns with Ferrari's ambitious goal of having EVs and PHEVs, hybrids, comprise 60% of its sales by 2026. That's a statistic that seems, unreasonable at this point, but let's see if they pull it off.
It seems like a stretch at this
Mhm.
point if they're just going to be introducing their electric in 2026. To me, it also like you got to remember though, Ferrari is a company that sells 3,000 or 4,000 cars a year.
Small volume
They're a
production.
small
Yeah.
volume production. If they said, "Yeah, we're going to sell 3,500 cars, and of that 3,500, 2,100 cars, we're going to make sure that they're the electrics."
Hmm.
Probably doable. Now, because they're such a small run manufacturer.
We had a LaFerrari here, which is a hybrid Ferrari.
Hmm.
And my concern has been with these cars is there's a visceral experience that goes along with these cars. It's the vibration, it's the sound of the exhaust, it's the pounding of gears, although most of it now is paddles on the
Hmm.
steering wheel. And I just don't quite yet understand how the Ferrari faithful, or even Lamborghini, or any of the exotic car manufacturers, are going to deal with the fact that these are now silent, except for some tire squeal if you take off
Right,
the traction control, I suppose.
right. That's a fair question. And I mean, does it mean we're just getting old?
Yeah. And of course, getting in and out of the car is going to be important too. So maybe the Ferraris will look more like the average sedan. And if you think about it, Tesla has really pushed performance into the sedan market.
Yeah,
Most of these sedans outperform these Italian exotics.
they certainly do. We've got a couple of comments here. Want to get back to real quick. John did answer us. He said, "Yes, I would buy a new one," referring to a Performance Model 3.
Hmm.
Says Colorado offers an additional 5K on top of the 7.5K federal.
Wow. Okay.
Now that's an important thing to think about too. Doesn't California offer something like that for their vehicles too?
I believe they do. I don't know what the percentage or the amount is.
I don't either, but what happens if uh, car sales become Colorado car sales and then just get shipped wherever they need to, wherever their destination is?
That would be a worthwhile endeavor, would it not? Now, are there legalities there? Does it have to be titled in the state that it was purchased for a period of time?
Good
And
question.
I'm sure that the regulators are going to be taking a good hard look at that to see if people are going to circumvent and get that additional, benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I would think the states would want to make sure that they're not giving away money to people that don't live in the
That
state.
don't live exactly. Yes. YouTube, John Surik says, yes, I would buy a new one. Offers, yeah, if it offered an additional 5K. You had already mentioned that. And then Edward Miller from Facebook, welcome. Facebook doesn't show up that often. Love your short videos and posts. And that's really the team here. I have to give credit to Aaron on our social media team here. He's the one that takes these clips, creates short videos. And you're right, a lot of people like that condensed version. Do you have anything to say about that, Aaron?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. If anybody ever has any suggestions on content, we're always willing to listen for feedback, get some ideas. So, yeah.
Yes. Myrick1G on Instagram says hello.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, and let's see, John Surik, yes, I would buy. Okay, we got that. YouTube, also 4K for a used. That's right. The used cars in some states also have that additional benefit.
Yes, and I think what he's saying is that Colorado offers 4K for a used on top of the federal $4,000 for used
Mhm.
if the car was not previously titled in Colorado.
I see.
Very
Okay,
interesting.
yeah. All right, I've got a picture here that we can post up, Jesse. It's called Robot Auto Charge. And this is in China. Don't know how successful this is going to be, but remember, China comes up with some really cool features for EVs, such as battery replacement stations. NIO is pretty large in that. This is an autonomous charger. And if you could see this video, before the cables are deployed to plug into the car, this thing is like your Roomba. It actually travels to the car that needs the charge. It's a autonomous robot that, and I'm not sure what the algorithm is or how it determines that the car needs it. I'm assuming there's communication.
I'm sure it probably is.
Yeah, but it will drive right over to that car, and at this point, it looks like, according to the video, you still need human intervention to plug it in. But remember, Tesla years ago worked on that automated charging
That's right.
wand that came out and went into the port.
That's right, and that's big enough that that's basically a battery with a cover on it. There's going to be enough energy in that thing to be able to charge even your largest electric vehicle.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming it's going to go back to its storage facility and get plugged in to get a new charge.
It's a really novel idea.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're at the half-hour mark. We've been keeping these to 30 minutes. In 30 minutes at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we will reconvene for the Tesla Roadster podcast. And today's theme is going to be waterproofing your Roadster and the fact that they are not waterproof, which, you would expect because you're going to drive your car in varying conditions. But the Roadster has some problems with moisture. We're going to go over what the vulnerabilities are, what kinds of things we're seeing at Gruber Motor Company that are water damage related, and we'll give you some tips on how to avoid your Roadster having this type of water ingress damage. And of course, the main thing is keep your Roadster indoors. Keep it out of the rain if you can, and certainly don't store it outside.
Oh, I look forward to talking to you again in a half hour.
Thank you.